I never thought the biggest moment of my career would be the thing that nearly tore my family apart. But here I am, 29, violinist, emotionally gutted, because my mom asked me to give up the solo of a lifetime for my little sister's feelings. My name's Sienna Harper, and if you're into classical music in Portland, maybe you've heard of me. I've been with the Willamette Chamber Ensemble since I was 21. It started as a side gig to pay rent after grad school, but slowly it became home. My violin is the only thing that's ever made sense when life didn't. Last spring, after years of playing second chair, practicing till my fingers bled, and saying yes to every last-minute performance, I finally got the call I'd dreamed of. I was offered the spring season's opening solo. It was the spot. Every violinist in the city wanted it. I remember hanging up and crying on my studio floor, still holding the bow like it was an extension of my spine. I called my mom the next day, giddy like a kid. I thought, maybe for once she'd be proud. Maybe she'd tell me I earned this. But when I told her, there was a pause. Not the stunned kind, the loaded kind. And then she said, "Sienna, you know your sister's going through a hard time right now? Do you really think it's the best time to be making everything about you?" That sentence, it knocked the breath out of me. Like someone slapped me mid-celebration. Let me explain. My younger half-sister, Camilla, is 24 and has always, and I mean always, been the golden child. Blonde, bubbly, loud in that charming on-camera way. When she was 17, she made it onto a short-lived Netflix talent show. Lasted 3 episodes, but my mom clung to it like a crown. My Camilla, the star. And me? I was the quiet one. The gifted musician, which was code for doesn't demand attention. I got scholarships, played Carnegie with my college quartet, even toured abroad. But none of it ever seemed to register with my mom the way Camilla's viral TikTok meltdown did. So yeah, when Mom said that, I froze. I thought she was joking. I even laughed nervously, but she wasn't. She went on. How Camilla had just broken up with some producer guy in LA. How she was emotionally raw, and how a big public performance from her sister might feel like a slap in the face. A slap in the face? I wanted to scream. This wasn't some petty trophy. It was a solo I'd waited 9 damn years for. Still, I tried to be diplomatic. I told her gently that this performance had been scheduled long before Camilla's latest breakup, and that it wasn't about outshining anyone. I thought that would be the end of it. I was so wrong. The next day, Camilla posted some vague video on Instagram. Soft piano in the background, red eyes, tearful whispering about being hurt by people who are supposed to love you. No names, but plenty of pointed stares. Then she shared a screenshot of the concert flyer. Just my name. No caption. Just 3 broken heart emojis. That night, I got 3 messages from distant relatives I hadn't heard from in years. "Hey, I don't want to take sides, but maybe think about how this might look from Camilla's point of view?" One even said, "It's just a concert, Sienna." No, it wasn't. This wasn't just about a concert. This was about years of being overlooked, of being called too serious, while Camilla got praised for learning 4 chords on a ukulele. This was about working my ass off in a field that doesn't exactly roll out red carpets. And finally getting a moment to be seen, only for my own family to treat it like I'd stolen something. And the part that really cracked me open, it wasn't Camilla's tantrum. I expected that. It was my mother, the woman who bought me my first violin, who used to sneak into the back row of every high school recital, now telling me, with a straight face, that I should consider stepping down. Not because I wasn't good enough, but because Camilla couldn't handle it. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed replaying every moment my mom had ever picked Camilla over me. There were more than I wanted to admit. I started to realize this wasn't new. This was just louder. And I knew then, if I wanted to keep this solo, I was going to have to fight for it. But I had no idea how dirty they were about to play next. The worst part wasn't that they asked me to step down. It was how coordinated it all became after I said no. I didn't even respond to Camilla's vague posting or the relatives texting me concerned messages. I figured, fine, let her throw her digital pity party. I had rehearsals to focus on, music to memorize, and a part to play I'd fought like hell for. But Camilla and my mom? They didn't back off. They doubled down. It started small. One morning, I walked into rehearsal and noticed that our guest conductor, Dr. Laird, wouldn't look me in the eye. I figured maybe he was just in a mood. He's known for being prickly. But halfway through practice, he made a snide comment about not everyone understanding the emotional temperature of a room. It was directed squarely at me. I felt my stomach drop. That night, I got a text from an old family friend who worked at the music school where I used to teach part-time. She asked, "Hey, did something happen with you and Camilla? I heard there was some family tension and that it might be affecting your work." That's when it clicked. They weren't just trying to guilt-trip me privately. They were painting a picture, rewriting the narrative. And the scariest part? Some people were starting to believe them. Camilla posted a long, rambling Instagram story that ended up getting screen recorded and passed around. She said she'd been sidelined and emotionally dismissed by someone who should have had her back, and that she was terrified to be in the same room as certain family members. She cried through half of it. I know because my cousin sent me the full video with the caption, "She's going off the deep end." But the internet eats that stuff up. Suddenly, comments started popping up under the symphony's page. One said, "Why support an organization that uplifts bullies?" Another called me out by name. "Sienna Harper is proof that talent means nothing if you don't have empathy." I wanted to scream, or cry, maybe both. Instead, I sat on my apartment floor staring at my violin case. That thing's been with me since I was 16. It's dinged up. The velvet inside is worn where my bow rests, but it's mine. It's held every hour of practice, every callus, every late-night breakdown. And for the first time in years, I thought about putting it away. I called my friend Juno that night. She's a cellist, sharp as hell, no time for drama. When I told her what was happening, she didn't sugarcoat it. "Sienna, they're not just trying to guilt you. They're trying to replace you in your own story. You play that solo. Even if the hall's half empty. Even if they're screaming outside." She was right. But the final straw came 3 days later when I got called into a casual meeting with the orchestra director. It wasn't casual. He started with a fake sympathetic tone, something about wanting to check in, and how family stuff can sometimes ripple into our professional space. Then, just like that, he dropped the hammer. "We've received a few concerns from patrons and internal staff, questioning whether the current soloist brings the kind of emotional maturity we want to open the season with." My ears rang. I sat there for a full 10 seconds before I spoke. "You're telling me you want to pull my solo because my family is mad I didn't cancel it for someone else's heartbreak?" He didn't answer directly. He just shrugged and said, "Well, you know how perception is everything." Perception. That word burned. I left that meeting shaking, and on the walk home, something in me snapped. I'd tried to be kind. I'd tried to be silent, to let them rant, to let the pity parade pass, thinking it would lose steam. But it wasn't going to stop. They were going to ruin this for me. And not because I did anything wrong, but because I finally got something they couldn't control. So I stopped trying to be gracious. I opened my laptop, pulled up every email, every message, every screenshot of the vague threats, the smear posts, the fake concerns. I drafted a letter to the board of the orchestra. I laid everything out. The campaign of emotional manipulation, the attempts to pressure me off the program, the damage to my name, the direct impact on my mental health and professional standing. No drama, no tears, just facts. I attached the receipts. Then I hit send. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I made pasta. I watched half a season of Bob's Burgers. I played a scale just to feel the tension in my fingertips loosen, because now I was done waiting. They made this public. They tried to turn perception into power. Fine. Let's see how they like being perceived in the light. I didn't plan on showing up to Mom's house that night. I'd meant to just go for a walk, clear my head, maybe grab Thai takeout and call it an early night. But somehow I found myself standing outside her porch with that familiar tightness in my chest. The one I used to get when I came home with a trophy, knowing full well Camilla's B- in drama class would still get a louder cheer. The porch light was off, but I could see flickers of the TV through the blinds. I knocked once, twice. I was about to walk away when the door creaked open. Camilla answered. Of course she did. She looked surprised. Then smug. She leaned against the frame like she was the one who lived there, like I was the guest interrupting something. Didn't expect you, she said, arms crossed. I need to talk to Mom, I replied, keeping my voice steady. She didn't move. She's tired. Rough week. I won't be long. She rolled her eyes and walked back inside. I stepped in behind her and instantly felt it. The heaviness. Not just from the awkward silence, but from the years of things we never said. Mom was sitting on the couch, still in her robe, a half-empty mug of chamomile tea on the coffee table. She looked up at me like I was a stranger. Did something happen? She asked, as if I hadn't just spent the past month being dragged by her golden child. I didn't answer right away. I sat down across from her. My hands were shaking a little, but I forced them still. I sent a letter to the orchestra board, I said, voice even. I laid out everything. The smear campaign, the pressure, the way this whole thing has spiraled into something ugly and hurtful. She blinked. Sienna, why would you escalate this? No, I cut in. You don't get to frame it like that. You don't get to pretend like this isn't something you allowed to happen. Her face tightened. Camilla hovered in the hallway, arms crossed again like she was preparing for a showdown. I've spent years watching you bend over backwards for her, I said, glancing at my sister, while acting like anything I achieved was either accidental or inconvenient. That's not true. It is, I said, and deep down, you know it. I took a breath. My voice softened, but the weight behind it didn't. When Dad died, I stepped up. I helped with the bills. I gave up the Berlin summer program because you said Camilla couldn't handle being left behind. I said nothing when you pawned my cello scholarship plaque to help her get headshots. And still, I never asked for more than a thank you. Mom looked like she was going to cry. Good. Let her feel something real for once. But this was the line, I continued. You tried to take the one thing I earned fully on my own. Not because it was wrong or because I hurt anyone, but because Camilla couldn't handle not being the center of attention, and you went along with it. Again. Camilla scoffed. God, you're so dramatic. Always turning everything into some victim monologue. I turned to her. No, Camilla. You just can't stand it when someone doesn't orbit around your chaos. She flinched like I'd hit her. I'm not asking you two to cheer for me, I said, standing. But I won't let either of you rewrite this into some morality play where I'm the villain for wanting one damn moment that wasn't about you. Mom was silent. Camilla said nothing. The room felt like it might snap in half from the tension. I walked to the door. Just before I left, I turned back. You don't have to come to the show. In fact, I'd prefer if you didn't. And with that, I walked out, heart pounding but weirdly lighter. Because for the first time, I hadn't backed down. I hadn't apologized for wanting something good for myself. And maybe that didn't fix everything, but it was a start. The day of the performance felt unreal. Not in the magical butterflies in your stomach kind of way. More like the slow, suspended dread you feel before a storm rolls in and knocks the wind out of everything. I'd barely slept the night before. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd hear my mom's voice again. Soft, manipulative. If you really cared about your sister. I'd see Camilla's face twisted in that familiar cocktail of mock pity and quiet satisfaction. But it didn't matter anymore. That chapter was done. I'd said my piece, and now all that was left was to play. The concert hall was already buzzing when I arrived. I saw people in tailored coats, couples holding programs, old music lovers chatting about the lineup. It should have made me excited, but I couldn't stop glancing over my shoulder. I half expected Camilla to burst out of a shrub with her phone live streaming, claiming I'd stolen her moment again somehow. Instead, it was quiet. Tense, but quiet. I walked backstage and was immediately hit with the smell of rosine, old wood, and the faint, powdery scent of someone's cheap perfume. Familiar, comforting even. Juno was already in her seat, tuning her cello. She looked up and gave me a firm nod. No words, just that unspoken, you got this energy only musicians know how to share. House is full, she said. Not bad for someone who was supposed to be too emotionally immature to lead. I cracked a smile. Guess I faked it well. We didn't talk about the board's response to my letter, just that I hadn't been pulled. That was enough. The silence from the administration said everything. We see it. We're not taking sides. But you get to play. That was all I needed. What I didn't expect, though, was what happened 20 minutes before curtain. I was in the green room, hands hovering over the warm-up strings of my violin, when the stage manager stepped in. Hey, she said, her tone already telling me something was off. You've got visitors. Out front. I blinked. What? Who? She hesitated. Your mom and sister. They're at the artist's entrance. Said they just want to talk to you before the show starts. My stomach dropped like a stone. They're not on the list, she added, but they're refusing to leave. I don't remember standing up, just the way the room seemed to shrink around me as I followed her to the hallway, then toward the backstage side door where a security guard was already posted. They were exactly as I pictured. Mom was crying. Of course. The kind of crying that's loud and performative, as if grief itself had nominated her for Best Supporting Actress. Camilla stood beside her, arms folded, expression unreadable. As soon as they saw me, Mom stepped forward. Sienna, she said, voice trembling. Please, we just want to talk. I held the doorframe, my fingers digging into the cold metal. We've said everything we need to, I replied. You told me I should have stepped down, that this would hurt Camilla. You let her humiliate me online, spread lies to our community, and you never once, stood up for me. Camilla scoffed under her breath. Oh, come on, she muttered. It's a violin solo. You're acting like it's the Olympics. That did it. I stepped forward, quiet but deadly clear. You tried to burn down something I built with 10 years of work. And you couldn't do it. So now you're here, trying to scrape up whatever's left of your narrative. It's not going to happen. Mom reached for me, but I stepped back. I asked you not to come, I said. I meant it. She flinched like I'd slapped her. You're really going to bar your own family from seeing you perform? I met her eyes. You're not here to see me perform. You're here to make sure you're still in the story. And with that, I nodded to the guard. He didn't hesitate. He stepped between us and gently shut the door. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I walked back into the green room, picked up my violin, and stepped into the wings. When I walked on stage, the lights were blinding, but the sound of the room, the rustle of programs, the soft coughs, the collective inhale before the music starts, that sound held me. Then came the silence. My cue. I raised the bow and played. I played like my life had something to say. I played like every quiet moment I swallowed as a kid was rising to the surface and demanding space. I played for the girl who skipped parties to rehearse, for the young woman who gave up summer scholarships, for the adult who finally stopped auditioning for love that came with terms and conditions. When the last note rang out, the silence held again. Then, slowly, applause. Rising, rolling, a standing ovation. But I didn't cry for that. I cried later, back in the dressing room, when I saw Juno grinning in the doorway, holding a bouquet with a single note card. For the girl who stopped apologizing for being center stage. The Monday after the performance, I woke up to a dozen texts and missed calls. Not from Mom or Camilla, I'd already blocked them, but from musicians, old friends, even people I didn't know that well. They'd seen the viral clip. Apparently, someone in the lobby had recorded my mom and Camilla being turned away from the venue, including the part where Camilla screamed that I was an emotionally manipulative narcissist who had always been jealous of her spotlight. And right after that, my mom, loud, clear, and on camera, said, "She was never supposed to be the star. Camilla just got unlucky." That phrase spread like wildfire. A few people shared it as a joke, others used it to talk about parental favoritism. Someone on Twitter said, "Nothing hurts more than hearing your own mom say you were never meant to shine." Within 2 days, it was trending on TikTok. It didn't have my name attached publicly, but anyone who knew me knew. Camilla tried to clap back, of course. She posted a sobbing video about how cancel culture was attacking a vulnerable woman just trying to love her sister. But the internet didn't buy it this time. Too many receipts. Too many people who'd watched her try to spin narratives that fell apart the moment real consequences showed up. What none of them expected, though, what I didn't expect, was what happened at the nonprofit where Mom sat on the board. The Portland Arts and Youth Foundation had been her pride and joy. She was their vice president, gave speeches about nurturing young talent, hosted donor dinners, name-dropped her musical daughters like they were interchangeable props. But now, board members were livid. They held an emergency meeting after that clip went public. Turns out a few of the newer donors were musicians themselves, and they recognized exactly what kind of emotional abuse had been captured in that one line. I didn't have to say a word. They voted her out unanimously. My aunt, the only one in the family who ever really checked in on me, called a few days later. She said Mom hadn't left her house since. Camilla was couch surfing after her PR rep dropped her, and one of her sponsorship deals got yanked. "They keep saying you ruined them," my aunt said. I let out a long, tired breath. I just stopped letting them ruin me. I didn't celebrate. Not really. I didn't throw a party or pop champagne or post a smug paragraph online. I just went to rehearsal. I cooked dinner. I kept showing up to my life, like I always had. Only now the noise was gone. There was one moment, though, about a week after the concert, that caught me off guard. I was walking back from the co-op with my tote bag full of produce, and this girl, maybe 19, maybe 20, stopped me on the sidewalk. "Hey," she said, a little shy. "You're Sienna Harper, right?" I nodded slowly. I just wanted to say, that video, that whole thing, it made me feel less crazy about my own mom. Then she hugged me, just like that. And I stood there for a moment holding a stranger who saw herself in me, and I realized, maybe I wasn't just playing for myself that night after all. I've learned something the hard way. Silence doesn't make people respect you. It just makes you easier to ignore. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to stop asking permission to take up space. And if you've ever had to cut out someone who was supposed to love you, but only ever loved their version of you, please know this. You are not the villain in their story. They just wrote the wrong script. If any of this hit close to home, I'd really like to hear from you. Share your story in the comments, no matter how messy or unfinished it feels. And if you're new here, feel free to subscribe. I don't always have the answers, but I try to tell the truth. Thanks for being here with me.